recollections may vary, a royal recap. I'm Kinsey Schofield here with Kevin O'Sullivan. You watch us together on The Political Asylum with Kevin O'Sullivan. In fact, quite a few of you do, so thanks a lot. We love you back. With plenty of time on our hands today, Kev and I are going to dissect this Vanity Fair article that was researched so forensically. Kev, I'm getting calls from outlets that I typically don't hear from that are like, we've got to dive into this Vanity Fair article. Do you feel like the tide is turning for Harry and Meghan? Does this Vanity Fair article have some weight that they can't just dismiss in the way that you and I have discussed previously?
Absolutely. I think this is the end of the line for the image that Meghan has been desperately trying to promote. That is that she's a lovely person. Oh, I must go and help the victims of the Los Angeles fire. Well, if you really want to be thought of as a nice person, Meghan, start behaving properly. Start behaving well to your staff. Start treating people with respect. What we're getting more and more is this image that she wants to portray in public and the truth about her when she's not in public. Now, Vanity Fair, a lot of people say astonishing revelations. Well, I thought it was a fantastic read. It's an 8,000-word article. That is huge. That's almost as long as a novel. It is forensically researched. Vanity Fair is a very respectable publication. They cannot just turn around and say, this isn't true, this is just people with an axe to grind, people with an angle who are against us. No, they can't say that. In fact, their only unofficial response to this fantastic article in Vanity Fair is it's distressing. Well, that's not a denial, is it? Now, everything that Vanity Fair is saying really is just an expansion on what just 2 or 3 months ago the Hollywood Reporter said about her. That she was a tyrant in high heels, that she had tantrums at 5 in the morning, that she reduced grown men on her staff to tears. Now, Vanity Fair has taken that theme and run with it, and they've even managed to up the ante that people who work with her were so traumatized by the way she treated her that they had to go into therapy. They can't deny this anymore. And let's talk about Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair is the nearest thing the magazine world in America gets to the Bible. To say it's taken seriously is the understatement of the century. Vanity Fair has an impeccable position in American culture. It is the magazine of the United States of America. To be disrespected in that, to be written off as American hustlers by Vanity Fair, trust me, Kinsey, you know this, that's the end of the line. There's no coming back from this. And how many times must this woman be accused of bullying before people like you and I can turn around and say, that's enough accusation, she is a bully. Now, she was accused of being a bully back in Britain when they were still working royals. She bullied front staff at Buckingham Palace, in all the palaces, by all accounts. Memos were written to the Queen to alert her to what was going on. She made Kate, cry in a row over the bridesmaids' dresses. Then they come to America, where she's accused of being a bully to her staff there. That is enshrined by the Hollywood Reporter, another very respected publication. We're not talking about sensationalist tabloids here. We're talking about proper journalistic publications that do their work, that do the research. The Hollywood Reporter spoke to 12 people who have worked for Meghan, one of whom still was working for her. Now the Vanity Fair has spoken to many more people who've been around her, who've worked for her. And one person who said that anyone who says Meghan is a delight to work for should be ashamed of themselves. She is a nightmare. She is a nightmare. I mean, I think we can say, unless she's going to come out and explain exactly why she is not a bully, Meghan Markle is a bully. And it is as simple as that. And that is why Her name is poison in Hollywood, why she is toxic, and Harry and Meghan will never make it in Tinseltown. 2025 is going to be an interesting year for those two.
Yeah, no Markle Sparkle. I had Fox News ask me yesterday, why do these bully claims seem to haunt Meghan? And I said, I think the bully allegations continue to haunt Meghan because they are likely true, and Meghan's behavior is not changing for the better. I don't think it's that difficult of a question. Let's talk about Vanity Fair. The source that spoke to Prince Harry, they talked about how Prince Harry hadn't absorbed the gravity of what it would mean to sell millions of copies of a tell-all book about a famously guarded family in the middle of a years-long public relations crisis, which Prince Harry kind of kicked gasoline on. The insider said, the power of the written word and the power of the narrative. I don't know if that's something he understood while he was doing it. There also was this exchange that they mentioned, Prince Harry at a party saying, when somebody asked him, had he heard from his family, that person saying, or Harry saying to that person, I hope I do. Kevin, he can't be this stupid. He can't be this dumb.
I think he can. I really think he can. I mean, as you know, Kinsey, he's not renowned for his intellectual prowess. This is a guy who struggled to get to A levels. These are the higher exams you get here in Britain. He had to go to special cramming classes to get them in order to get into Sandhurst Military College to qualify as an officer. I mean, he's just not a very clever guy, and he's lived in a very cosseted world, cut off from the rest of reality. And I think that when he sat down to be interviewed for the book Spare, in a naive way, he thought, well, I have to tell this guy everything I know. He has no register, he has no sort of inner censor. So he just let it spew out. I mean, the stuff he was telling the author, or the ghostwriter, do we really need to know? Did we ever really need to know that he had frostbite of his genitals?
Willie?
What on earth did he think he was saying? Nobody needed to know that. The stuff he revealed for that book was shocking in its detail, made for a very good read. But I don't think he understood what he was doing. In fact, what he did with Spare was he opened a Pandora's box on thousands of years, generations of royal secrecy. The royals always kept up their mystique, quite rightly. They don't give interviews to tabloids or to magazines, glossy magazines, about the row they just had with their wife or the trouble they're having with their kids, or they can't afford the bills, or they don't do that because that's the mystique of royalty. Harry didn't understand that. That nuance passed him by, and therefore he vomited it all out into a book that, as I say, was one hell of a read. But you remember that. I remember reading it and going, my God, what on earth is he saying here? So no, I think it's absolutely true that when Harry gave that tell-all interview to the ghostwriter, listing everything that ever happened, obviously slanted in his favour, that he knew not what he did. He did not know what he was doing.
Did you have an issue with the idea that the writer talks about everyone saying that Harry and Meghan are deeply in love, they are so hot for each other, you feel like you shouldn't be in the room, but there's also the idea of Meghan shopping around a book about post-divorce. I justify it in my head that couples go through highs and lows, and perhaps this conversation happened during a low. Also, Meghan has had a divorce before. The concept is not as scary to her as it would be for Prince Harry. But I am seeing people that are associated with the Sussexes push back and say it doesn't make sense to include both of those things in the piece.
No, in terms of the love affair, they're really hot for each other. Maybe physically they are, I don't know. But I think this is a two-sided relationship. I mean, you know, I'm sure Meghan's got affection for Harry and all that. Harry, meanwhile, I mean, I think that essentially Meghan is like a mother substitute to him. People have said that she is reparenting him, that he goes around still going on about the trauma of his childhood. And he's looking for a mother figure, and that is what Meghan is. So he is absolutely enthralled to her. I think her attitude is different. I think he can't even contemplate the idea of them splitting up, of her leaving. I think she probably calculates it all the time, probably thinks about it. Now, when this story in the Vanity Fair magazine, in the 8,000 word article, when that is relayed, that somehow someone somewhere connected to Meghan asked around the publishing world about a potential post-divorce book written by Meghan. I think that, look, it was framed that she wondered whether publishers might be interested in that book. She knew full well they'll be very interested. Any publishing house, you know, would rip her arm off for that. Now, what I think the conversation was, though, it wasn't, would you be interested in a book of this nature, my post-divorce book? It was, how much would it be worth? That was what the conversation was, if these conversations happened. Meghan and Meghan's people are denying it. But again, it's Vanity Fair. They wouldn't just put that in just for a bit of titillation. They really wouldn't. They're not that kind of publication. I suspect that allegation has gone in watered down from what it really was. And I suspect that the conversations that were being had, would you be interested in that book? There wasn't, would you be interested in the book? She knows that. It's how much would this book be worth? That was what the conversation was, if you ask me.
Yeah, because the person that I talked to that worked at Vanity Fair said that legal would have been heavily involved in this. And there's no way they would have allowed something to go into that article that would jeopardize Vanity Fair. So the fact, I mean, I think it's very compelling that that was included. You know, I was just sitting here thinking about when we are trying to explain to everyone how significant Vanity Fair is, which we probably don't, but you know, Vanity Fair is, I associate them with the Kennedy family, like old political royalty, but also don't forget their 1997 piece, Diana Reborn, where they took those iconic black and white images that completely rebranded Diana as this victim to this sexy single woman who had hope for the future. And unfortunately, she died a few weeks, if not months, after Diana Reborn, that was published in Vanity Fair. You know, it just gives you the ick to think that that is where Meghan chose her big debut to be back in 2017 with Wild About Harry. This is Meghan trying to live in Diana's shadow yet again. But because she's in perpetual victim mode, instead of being so grateful to be on the cover of Vanity Fair, which is not something she would have ever accomplished with Prince Harry, she accuses them of a racism and tries to bully them into changing the title online because of the Judy Garland scene from 1939. Do you think at all about the fact that Meghan potentially pursued Vanity Fair because we all saw those beautiful images that Prince Harry has hung up in his house of Diana from that 1997 shoot?
Yeah, this sums up why Meghan is named Duchess Difficult, because nothing pleases her. When they said Wild About Harry, it was a puff piece. They were all over her. They were really nice about her. But she finds something in it to turn herself into a victim. That is her favourite manoeuvre in life. I'm a victim here. I'm a victim here. And to find racism in the headline, Wild About Harry, I mean, that takes some That takes some work, doesn't it, to find that? Absolute nonsense. But there they are being nice to her, and she accuses them of racism. Now, think about that. Here we are, all these years later, American Hustle, basically calling her a hustler, which is what she is, and Harry, by extension, a hustler. I don't think Harry's a hustler. Harry's a disconnected member of the royal family, an aristocrat who doesn't know anything about money, who just wants to do charity work. That's all he knows about. So I don't think he's a hustler, but she sure as hell is. So you've now got this really critical headline on the front page of Vanity Fair. Now, given that she went for them when they said she's wild about Harry, furiously went for them, and all she can manage now is, this is distressing. That tells you that everything in the Vanity Fair article is 100% true, and she cannot deny it.
Oh, wow. Now, we talked yesterday about a report in the Times that Harry and Meghan were just dismissing the article. And we obviously laughed at that, referencing this Wild About Harry story. But talk to me about the reality of crisis PR meetings happening right now, because that's where I truly believe they are. I think they've got their PR team around a table and they're saying, this is ridiculous. How did you let this happen? And the countdown is on because now they have a little over a month, barely over a month, to try to win over the world because Meghan is desperate for her Netflix show to succeed. So do you think, as like I do, that there are crisis talks happening behind the scenes right now? Should we go on Kelly Clarkson? Should we go on Jimmy Fallon? How can we make Meghan more likable really, really quick?
You know, I'd love to. I absolutely agree with you. I think there will be some serious crisis meetings going on, particularly with image makers, with publicists, people who are experts in the field of publicity, because all these two can manage to attract these days is bad publicity. I'd love to be one of the advisors, you know, called to a meeting. What can we do to improve our image? And I would say to Meghan and Harry, look, it goes like this. Absolutely everybody completely hates you. So our scheme is this: you never get seen ever again. Try that. That'll make you popular. But seriously, yes, they'll be trying to work a way through this. I think I thought something was afoot from the moment her cooking show was postponed by Netflix. Something was going on there. It's because Netflix had seen the dismay that everybody was expressing over her disaster tourism, their disaster tourism, you know, when they went grief grifting to Los Angeles to be pictured being angels among the wreckage. Everybody, well, not everybody, but the vast majority of people, particularly in Los Angeles, just disgusted by that. They saw right through them. Everybody's saying, I mean, I know loads of people in Hollywood and they're really, really appalled by what happened last week. They're just going, this is a photo op for them. This is for them to look good, you know, on the back of other people's tragedy. All wrong, all wrong. So Netflix have seen this, Harry and Meghan have seen this, and they need to plot a way forward. Netflix are thinking, we're not letting this cooking show out in the middle of this backlash against their grief grifting. We've got to delay this. So they're delaying it all the way until March the 4th. Between now and then, you're right, Kinsey, be in no doubt there'll be a lot of crisis meetings. How do we repair our image? How do we get going again? How do we get the public on side? How can maybe we make Meghan with Love a success? Well, you can't make Meghan with Love a success, Meghan, because nobody needs to know how to freeze edible flowers into ice cubes. Nobody needs to know how to put olive oil into hummus. It's all light and trite claptrap that everybody on the planet could well do without. Nobody needs it. It isn't going to work.
Yeah, it just feels like she's backpedaling and just, it's a TIG show. And you were the TIG back in 2014. Has there been no growth? You know, has there been no maturity? You know, there was reference to, and you just mentioned this, the idea that they're considered local villains in Montecito, probably so much more so after people in Montecito saw their reaction to the LA fires. Like I said to you, I'm south of them. My neighborhood rallied. We put together clothes. You know, we did not disrupt the cleanup or the healing process in the way that Harry and Meghan insisted on doing. There was that podcast that I sent you earlier this week where the one of the hosts was talking about Harry and Meghan shutting down this volunteer space, hundreds of people told to just take 15 so that Harry and Meghan could do their walkabout. Is there a way for Harry and Meghan to change their reputation within Montecito? Can they escape the title of local villains?
Well, the locals, their neighbours, the people of Montecito are sick to death of them because they can see through their hypocrisy. You know, it's like the Southport, the South thing, isn't it? The cartoon, you know, we want privacy, the privacy world tour. What the people of Montecito are saying is they're the most disingenuous couple in the world, that they demand publicity, they go on about their privacy, and yet all they do is court publicity in the American press, indeed the media around the world. What else are those ridiculous pretend royal tours for to Nigeria and Colombia? What are they for? They're just photo ops. They're extended photo ops, a way to get Meghan and old Ginger Nuts into the press, onto the telly, you know, onto the radio, to get them talked about. They are desperate to be in the news. They are desperate not to be private, and Montecito is full of genuine, massive celebrities, billionaires, much richer, much more famous than them, who genuinely want privacy. They're living there because they don't want hordes to come and visit them, and yet Harry and Meghan secretly do. So it's that hypocrisy. They have been called by one of their neighbours the most disingenuous couple in the world. So nobody likes them there either.
I truly feel that this, you know, I think that the divorce rumors are, you know, are hurtful. I think the mean girl theme of Meghan being a bully probably really gets under her skin. But I think Vanity Fair shines a light on their unimpressive work ethic, their unimpressive qualifications professionally, and their unimpressive ability to collaborate with people. You know, even though they were presented with these incredible opportunities like Spotify and Netflix, you know, they don't produce consistent, successful content. Do you think that that is the deepest cut for them? Or are they so shallow that Meghan's mad that she was called a mean girl, or they're more annoyed by divorce? Do you think that they look at the entire theme of the piece, which is you can't rely on these two, and realize that other legitimate professionals are going to read this opportunity and they're going to opt not to work with them going forward because Vanity Fair has not painted a good picture of them?
I think there's a real problem there. I think what we're talking about is a lack of talent. I mean, neither of them are very talented. She's not, she's a mediocre actress off a cable show, but, you know, she's hardly exactly climbed the Hollywood ladder and got to the top, has she? As for him, you know, it's just a sort of bozo, isn't he, you know? And neither of them seem to want to work hard. So they have poor ideas to which they do not apply themselves. That's a bad combination. Now, I would have thought if they had any sense, if she had any sense, I mean, of the two, she's brighter, she's slightly cleverer than him, but don't go running away with it. She's no genius. She doesn't understand Hollywood for a kickoff. She really doesn't. And of course he doesn't, but you might expect her to have a clue. She's clueless. She's clueless. Now, what she and him should have done is brought in talent who could have great ideas, to use them in TV series, maybe even movies, documentaries that would work. But it doesn't look as if they've done that. They've relied on Meghan's ideas and Harry's ideas, which you and I have laughed about many a long time. I mean, they're just rubbish. Let's do Emily in Paris, only with a guy. I mean, I don't think you're quite getting the point there, Meghan.
No.
And of course, we now know that Harry's great Spotify idea for his podcast series was that he goes around the world interviewing powerful men. He wanted to do the Pope, he wanted to do Putin, and he wanted to do Donald Trump. And his thesis was this. Well, we've all had terrible childhoods, all of us, you know, the Pope, Putin, and Trump. I don't know about the Pope. I don't think Putin, I don't know about Putin, but I don't think Trump had a terrible childhood. Anyway, Harry says he had a terrible childhood. So what fascinates him about these powerful men is how come they turned out to be sociopaths, but he didn't. You know, well, there's two things that is ridiculous on so many levels. I mean, are they sociopaths? I'm not sure. Is he qualified to say that they're sociopaths? I didn't see his psychology degree anywhere on his CV. In fact, he hasn't got a degree, university degree anywhere on his CV because he's too thick to pass a university degree. So there's that. And secondly, in the real world, Harry, if you go to rich and powerful people and say, I'd like to interview you about what a sociopath you are, you'll tend to find that they say no, which feeds back into what you were saying earlier. This guy, Harry, dim as hell, lives in an ivory tower. He does not understand the real world, does not have a clue, not a clue, and therein lies your problem. So you've got an untalented couple who don't appear to want to work very hard. None of their ideas seem to last for long. What happened to that movie they've got, I Met You at Meet Me at the Lake? What's going on with that? What's going on with their other TV ideas? What's going on with his podcast? What are they doing? You know, except for waiting in hope for Meghan with love. Good luck with that.
Well, Harry's surfing, but, you know, just talking about their work ethic, it makes me feel like that's why Meghan leans so deeply into the influencer space, which we expect more of her because she left a job where she was a duchess, you know, from tiaras to Tupperware is basically how I've described it. Now she's selling pots and pans. And, you know, I think that she leans into the influencer space because it requires very little effort. She takes a cute picture and posts it to Instagram and her work for the day is done. You know, I think that is really where she thinks she will have success. Before you are stolen from me, I want to ask you about the whisper shout. Citing multiple sources, Ella Tomini agreed with a line in Vanity Fair where a staff member said, you can be yelled at even if somebody doesn't raise their voice. And Camilla talks about a contact she has saying Meghan has a habit of using a whisper shout. So when Harry is in the room, he just hears her talking normally and doesn't understand why people describe her as aggressive. The source continued, his default response is always, Meghan is misunderstood. We have all known a whisper shouter. Am I crazy? Like, I feel like I can think of 5 different people that have talked down to me and they weren't yelling, but I felt like I was being reprimanded. I felt like I was a child again.
Yeah, I mean, I refuse to ever depict myself as a victim of anything. But down the years, I've had some tough bosses. And if you call it bullying, I think I've been bullied merely by stares. You know, when people stare at you, you know, and you know it. So you're absolutely right, Kinsey. You know, a bullying boss, a boss who terrifies her staff, who reduces them to tears, who forces them to go into long-term therapy, doesn't have to be a shouter. And in the Vanity Fair article, one of the former workers says that she has a sort of chessboard or a checkers board, and everybody is in their particular place. So if you're in the wrong place one week, she just doesn't talk to you. She freezes you out. And one member of staff, former member of staff, tells this story, very poignant, I think, that she's getting frozen out by Meghan, and Meghan goes, "Yeah, well, we know what you did wrong." And so the member of staff said, what did I do wrong? What have I done wrong?" And Meghan said, "I don't think we should talk about it now in front of everyone else, because that would only highlight more your mistakes and what you've done wrong. Now is not the time." You know, I've had bosses like that. I've had bosses like that as well. So that was, you know, it's this manipulative way of dealing with people, playing mind games with them. Are you in or are you out? You know, that people whose entire days can be dictated about whether or not the boss smiles and says good morning to them. You know, so those were the games she played. So she might not have shouted. She might have whisper shouted, but to all intents and purposes, everyone who's ever worked for her seems to say she was one hell of a bully who made their lives a nightmare.
Except for the people featured in Us Weekly, conveniently. But really quickly, what I will say, because I have to say goodbye to you, is, it's the type of boss that when they love bomb you, so you love feeling loved by them. And then the second they do put you out into the cold, because of the way they've manipulated you so far, you are desperate to work your way back into their good graces. That's long hours. That's going above and beyond. That's, you know, and that is the type of boss that I imagine she is, where she cuts off the love so that you work 1,000 times harder to work your way back up there. And at the end of the day, it's just not worth it, because it's a yo-yo, and it's never going to be consistent happiness or joy, which she's always pursuing. Agree with us, disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Kevin, I just wish I could have been there in the room with you when you were reading the Vanity Fair article.
Yeah, yeah, you too. Right back at you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for watching.